Drew Brantley here with the Independent Sponsor Update. Welcome back to another edition brought to you by Frisch Capital Partners, where every day Frisch Capital is helping independent sponsors put together the capital they need to successfully close their transactions. Today I've got Bob Frisch with me. Welcome to the show again, Bob.
Thank you, Drew.
All right, and so today, Bob, I want us to talk about certainty of closing.
All right.
Because for independent sponsors, you know, in the process of closing a deal, there's hurdles, there's things that they have to do along the way. You know, we've talked about getting the LOI is one of the first important ones. And then between the LOI and closing, there's due diligence. There's a million things that are on their plate that they have to get done. Quality of earnings, dealing with the sellers, pulling together the capital sources, everything.
Correct.
But everybody involved wants to know that there is a certainty of closing.
Correct.
They want to know, how certain are we that the date in the LOI that we say is the closing date, how certain are we that we can hit that date or at least really close to it?
Correct.
And so let's talk for a second about what can independent sponsors do to provide a certainty of closing for the sellers themselves and the capital partners, and what are some mistakes you see along the way?
Well, probably the biggest mistake I see along the way independent sponsors make is they go down the track and they only have one, maybe two capital sources that actually have indicated interest, and they think, oh, well, therefore, that's the one that's going to close the deal for me. That's a huge mistake. There's so many things that can upset the apple cart if you have it along the way. And if they lose that one or two, and we've had that happen, and don't have backups and don't have other people ready to take the place, that certainty of closing goes out the window.
You know, and I've heard numerous times from independent sponsors, well, we already have a capital source. They're really excited about the transaction. Yeah. And I hate to burst their bubble, but everybody's excited about it because usually capital sources have a mandate to invest their funds. They have to do something with that money. So they're excited about looking at all transactions.
Correct.
But they have specific investment criteria and they have things that are uncovered during the due diligence process. So let's talk for a second about kind of what are the trends that you see in terms of as people move from the initial we're excited to moving really into the due diligence.
Capital sources are really smart. Don't get me wrong. They know the game and they know how to play it, and they know how to play it well. One of the things they know is if they jump on a deal early with an independent sponsor, that they lock up the independent sponsor's time, they lock up their emotions, they lock up their psychology, they lock them up in a way that that independent sponsor truly believes they're going to get to the finish line. They may or may not. There are a lot of things that go on after signing up or getting a proposal. There's a lot of due diligence. Many capital partners are really just beginning their due diligence at that point. And obviously, in due diligence, there are a lot of things that pop up, and that could run the risk for the independent sponsor of losing the deal.
And, you know, so there's things that come up during due diligence. They have their investment criteria, but oftentimes an independent sponsor is just talking to one person.
Yeah.
But it's not just one person that's running the transaction for that capital source.
That's
right?
a really good point. Capital sources often have a front guy or a front two guys, and they might have one, maybe two guys working with you on the deal. Behind the scenes are general partners or executive vice presidents and financing sources. They're deal committees. They haven't even met yet in many respects. And even if they've met, they really haven't dug in on the deal yet. That's a huge risk, and you better have people backing you up from that proposal, from that term sheet you've gotten from one, maybe two capital sources.
So I want to be very clear. We're not bashing capital sources because they provide the capital to successfully close your transactions and the many independent sponsors deals that Frisch Capital works with on a regular basis. So we're not bad-mouthing them. It's just simply that they're doing their due diligence and they back out for whatever reason at different times along the way because of what they unearth.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about what can an independent sponsor do to ensure a successful closing. Because whether it's if somebody were to back out so that they kind of prepare for that, or for a when they back out, you know, if somebody does back out.
Well, one of the things they can do is is make sure that they have multiple proposals, multiple term sheets that have come in on their transaction. They have to go wide. They get stuck in, okay, I've got my capital source, now I can move on to something else. My firm knows that. We go wide. We have backups on every single deal that we do. Yes, we have one or two we're moving down the track with, but we know there's 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 or 6 even that are sitting in the wings in case that happens. They've got to make sure. One of the worst things that can happen to an independent, probably the worst thing, is to be marching down, and as they get closer to closing, the capital source decides they don't want to do the deal. You better have somebody that can step in. They can't make that mistake. It's critical.
You know, you were shared with me a while back when we were talking about, recently you had a transaction. The two front runners were going out to really do their due diligence management meetings and literally backed out the day before. But fortunately, you guys had other people in the wings. You got on the phone, and within a week you were able to have the next group of people that you had waiting in the wings up to speed and moving down the track.
Yeah, behind the scenes, it's important to realize behind the scenes of many capital sources are other people. And those other people, when they see the deal after the proposal has been accepted maybe, it can happen, or in the middle of due diligence, suddenly they start paying attention and they realize it's a deal they don't want to do. That's a huge risk. Yes, we did have a transaction exactly like that. We had 2 leading horses. We were marching down the track, and both of them left the scene. Both of them decided it wasn't a deal for them for whatever reason.
Sure.
Okay? So what we had to do was actually sit there and go back to our backups. Thank God, if you have it, that we had them. But we had to go back to our backups, and we had to talk to our backups and bring in 2 more horses to start running down the track. We did it quickly, and we did it efficiently, and we got the deal closed.
Great.
That's critical.
So Bob, as an independent sponsor obtains the LOIs, working towards that certainty of closing, they've got a million things on their plate. They need to focus on the most important things, which is their own due diligence, continued due diligence, making sure they're ready to take over and run the company once they close the transaction.
Absolutely.
To be able to do. So it's important, if they're going to involve intermediaries like yourself to help put together the capital or attorneys or quality of earnings, that they get those people involved and engaged as early as possible and not waiting until the last minute.
Yeah, that's critical. There's a ramp-up speed for everybody involved in the deal. And that letter of intent is under a time fuse. And as a result, you need to have people working for you, whether it be the attorneys, whether it be our firm, to help you get that deal closed. We bring in capital sources. We bring in people that want to finance the deal. That's critical.
But it takes some time to get up.
Yeah.
Because you've got to do your process, but also they've got to do theirs. Because if you think about it, the independent sponsor's been absorbing this deal, this company, for months, sometimes even years.
Correct.
And they know the business. They understand the deal. They understand the transaction and why they think it's good. But they have to remember that a capital source is getting it, and they're putting their eyes on it for the first time. And then sometimes they're asked to close within a very short period of time. So you've got to be able to engage them early enough in the process so they have a chance to do due diligence just like you've had a chance to do.
Not only that, they're busy. The capital sources are busy. And one of the things we do is we pound them to pay attention to that independent sponsor's deal. It's hard to get their eyeballs, if you have it, on the deal. That takes some time. We work extraordinarily quickly to get into the market with an independent sponsor's deal. But it takes time for the capital source to get involved, to start their due diligence, to start their process in order for us to get their term sheets and their proposals in. So the independent sponsor, the best thing he can realize is, in order to get certainty of closing, he has to engage people. He has to have capital sources, and numerous capital sources, that want to do his deal for backup purposes, because that is critical to certainty of closing.
Excellent. All right, so independent sponsors, 2 things to help guarantee a certainty of closing. First one, engage the people that are going to help you successfully close your transaction as early as possible. So whether it's attorneys, whether it's folks like Frisch Capital, whoever it is, engage them as early as possible so they can work their process to help you. The second thing is, be sure to bring in competition. Do not limit yourself to the 1 or 2 excited capital sources that show interest early on in the process. While they're interested, keep moving down the track with them, but you've got to have more in the wings so that if they back out for whatever reason, you've got somebody to help guarantee your certainty of closing. Thanks again for watching another episode of the Independent Sponsor Update, where we help provide you with the tips and techniques and tools to successfully close your transactions. Be sure to check out our other episodes, and thanks again for watching. Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Drew.
Appreciate it.